Welcome back to the podcast. So happy that you are here. Today, we're going to go through a galactic portal, and I'm going to explore some of my thoughts and memories and understandings of our galactic history and our galactic past. So we're gonna go through a portal together. And I started so when I first kind of figured out or like realized that like, whoa, we have other galaxies and other beings, other lives, other species and stuff out there was in like 2021, I guess, around there, when I had my first like soul blueprint reading. And that's where I had a reading done where like someone had read Melissa Bates. She was like my first spiritual mentor, which she's amazing. And so, anyways, she had shared with me some of my galactic lineage that was coming through her in her channel and how she connects. And it was the first time that someone told me I was like, had these different aspects of me that were non-human. And let me tell you, when I run with something, I fucking ran with it. And it kind of finally started to like, things started to like all make sense, at least a little bit more. Cause like, I always thought like things were happening, things just felt bigger. Like things just like felt like, I was trying to find this thing or this like the way that something is described, and everything that I had come across in my life like just wasn't satisfying. It wasn't it. Like I had researched and done a lot of like meditation and researched different ways that I can like connect to myself, and I just felt like there was a huge part that was missing, that I was like, I knew I was going to find something at one point, but I didn't know like what I was looking for, what it is. And so when I had this experience, when someone was like giving me all of this like galactic information of like who and what I am in other aspects, other realities, other planets, that we consider our past lives, but they're all currently happening. So it's just another aspect of me somewhere else. And this was like the first time that I was like, whoa, okay, this makes sense. Like, I thought that there was more to it than what we were told. And so that led me down a path to finding the TV network Gaia TV, which I just ended up finding some of my favorite shows. Actually, I wonder if I could bring some up. I don't know all of the titles, but Open Minds is a show that I absolutely loved. And she explores all these different things and like interviews people of the galactic different lineages and what they experience, what they do, who they channel. And similar to, what I like to get into. Oh, and then there's another TV series called Galactic Messages. Beyond Belief is another favorite. Just all of these, the Channeling Conference is another show that I absolutely loved to learn from. So anyways, I started finding all these different series on Gaia and other people that were channeling, and had several different readings of trying to figure out who I was outside of just this humanness. And that was when I realized like, wow, there's a lot to this. Like, and it really led my exploration to the beyond within myself and with the reality around me. And it was a deep dive. So with that led to trying to figure out, okay, now I looked outside of myself so much of like, okay, this is me in all these different aspects. And this is really cool. I'm Arcturian over here, and I have these gifts over here. And I'm, from Orion over here. And I had past lives in Lemuria and all these different things. And I think it's a natural rabbit hole to get down. And it's quite exciting to learn about like all of this like magical stuff of what you are connected to this and that. And I think that is a rite of passage that you go through when you realize all these different multidimensional aspects of yourself, and you kind of get fixated on these different parts of yourself outside of this humanness. And then you begin to kind of like, shit, why am I in this like boring human body, you know? But then as things circle back around as they do, and you know, I learn all of that, I go through that for a good year. I come back and then, you know, felt overwhelmed. And I was like, oh, I just want to go back into my humanness. Like, does this even exist anymore? And then you question, it's all these different phases of your spiritual awakening, right? And so now I'm in a place where I had spoke with in some past interviews where you have all this information and this knowledge of who you are outside of this humanness, but then the goal is to bring and anchor all that in now, in this current reality that I continue to exist in now. So I know myself as Erica in this human vessel, in this body that I chose. And how can I bring in all of my galactic aspects or information that I have had from other lives, and bring all that magic into this experience now? How can I blend them together and truly be multidimensional in this layered experience? And so now it's like I don't feel as resonant to say, oh, this is who I am or where I'm from, because really there's lots of aspects of that's just a really loaded question. And I really beat myself up for years of the question, who am I? And I felt very lost of my path and what I'm supposed to be doing. I felt this huge calling of like, oh, there's just something big that I'm supposed to be a part of, and I don't know what it is. And I was researching like purpose when I was, you know, in high school and stuff, just really overwhelmed with this feeling. And so all of this came to surface, all this came to light when I figured this like aspect out, when I was just like, wow, okay, that's why there's all of this that exists outside of what we're told and what we're known. And I dived into, and I should talk about that on a separate episode. It's another movie series. Well, Ancient Apocalypse kind of explains some theories, and then there's another one. Shoot, what's it called? I'm gonna have to think back to this movie, but it was a film that also described the past and the history related to our galactic history. So we're told in human history class, which we know that only one side is actually told. So you don't really know if that was actually the case, or if we're just hearing from what the winner wants us to hear and what the government wants us to hear. So that's a whole nother conversation. But to what we understand of our human history, there is a galactic history that goes alongside that. And things can feel a little bit confusing and empty or one-sided, or like we can't understand the full picture of what's happened, because we literally only know a fraction of events that have occurred. Like we have all of this galactic shit that's like in our history. And us being humans, we are spliced with many different species of aliens. So when I say that, like to really understand and start to realize that you have an inner alien, and that the alien is you, and that you need to embrace your inner alien, is quite literally because you have aspects of this genetic DNA that is in your human body. It's so buried because it has been so repressed for so long. And it's what is in our junk DNA, which they call, like, you know, all this wasted junk DNA that's, you know, oh, it's, you know, just useless and it's just there. Like, since when has our body ever just kept something that like doesn't have a use for? Like, the body is smart, it's efficient, it knows exactly what it's doing. And a lot of the times as humans, we don't really even know like why things exist. And just because we don't logically know doesn't mean it doesn't have a function. And so all of this junk DNA, and you see like with different energy healing and spiritual codes that you can turn on. These codes unlock your DNA, activate your DNA. And I've done a lot of this work within light language, and then now more with a high energy healing from Christina the Channel, and other ways that we can activate these parts of us. When we travel, we turn on our codes. When we speak to certain people, sometimes those get turned on. There's so many different ways to like turn on these aspects of our DNA, but literally the junk DNA and what we think that we're humans is like actually like not it. And to my understanding, we're like an experiment. We like Earth is an experiment. Like that's why we have all these like really cool species and stuff. And we have basically it was just like a hodgepodge planet where people were just or people, I say very loosely, beings were, having fun creating different plants and all these different stuff. And then when there was a huge galactic war, we had some beings land on this earth, and basically it was kind of fought over. So we have the reptilians that are here, we have these different beings that have tried to suppress us and control us and feed off our energy, and a lot of that is through fear and hatred and all our lower level emotions that are so much activated within like the group consciousness. And they quite literally are at the top of everything. They have been in control for a long time and under disguise. And yeah, so if you haven't dove into like galactic history and you're just listening to this for the first time, you could be like, what the fuck is she talking about? Like, this is nuts. And I realize how it sounds, but it is, I think, becoming more mainstream, or like at least more okay, I would probably, I could see how that is happening. And so anyways, so this the trajectory of like Earth and stuff and how it was created and where we came from and how we're all these like different aspects, like we're kind of an experiment really of like we have all these different genetic like parts of us from different galactic areas, and they're embedded in our humanness. And it is a place where we can, we come here and we are able to learn and grow our soul. But then also, and this is kind of my understanding even through my hypnosis session, is that when the part of me was in this okay, let me like rewind. When I was this octopus tree on a planet, I received information and knowledge and grew the planet I was on when an aspect of me, i.e. the dolphin, died, had a whole life, experienced things, had all these emotional things. Like basically when that dolphin died, when I died as a dolphin, my essence as a dolphin got sucked up into the octopus tree, and it grew me as a tree and grew then the planet. And so this is kind of like what happens to us when we come to Earth, when we're learning all these lessons and we're growing our soul, we're growing these things, that part of us that are also connected to our galactic lineage, say the part of me that is Arcturian, I'm helping grow that lineage and grow that consciousness within being Arcturian. And the same thing when I'm like in Orion. And so we have an experience. We think that like, okay, it's just the lessons that I'm learning here in this lifetime. And I'm the only one that's being affected. But it's actually, it affects everything. It affects like when you start to heal, when you start to wake up, when you start to make different choices, when you start to choose yourself and your joy and your creativity, and you're starting to choose the frequency that you're tuning into, and you're waking up to all of these things, you're rippled out into everything, like into your past lineage, of your human lineage, of your galactic lineage, of the people around you, the nature around you. It's we're all so interconnected. And when we realize that, like, really the biggest thing we could do is focus on that for ourselves. Is to focus on, okay, where are the places where I get to follow like my joy and my excitement, and where am I completely turned on and lit up and like recharging myself, and in that like love frequency, because when that happens, it bleeds out to everything beyond you and within you. And so this is like a really exciting thing. So if that makes sense. So it was an octopus tree and I was a dolphin. The aspect of me as a dolphin had passed, and the essence, all that knowledge, all of those lessons I learned as a dolphin got fed to the octopus tree, then grew that planet, because it was like, oh, I grow and feed off of knowledge. And so that's kind of like how a version of that works here on Earth. And Earth is a really special hub for that, because it's like the center of a lot of things. And what we do here ripples out to the universe too. And that's why it's so powerful. And so, this time in our life is so exciting and important, because it's a very spiritual, energetic war that's happening. And the more that we can tune into that, into our own sensitivities, to our own intuition, trust ourselves, and trust our guidance, and get connected, the more that we're able to move that energetic and spiritual war towards the light, towards love, towards source. And even though it all is everything, and it's still a we live in duality when we're on Earth, and that is how we grow. That's even how the universe is actually. This is like my understanding of things, of how I'm coming to terms with things, of like, even within what we think is the negativity or the dark or the abyss or like this unknown, like black holes. I was reading in my Womb Awakening book, and it was talking about how like black holes are literally like the womb, and through that darkness, things are also birthed. So we see that sometimes as like scary, or endings, or death of like, and they even equated to like, if you think about it, when people had these near-death experiences, they like see darkness and then like a bright light. And so they were like, what else is an example of that? Like when you're in the womb as a baby, and then you're like coming out of the womb into the world through a tunnel, through a bright light and a hole of like your mother's vagina, and you're going through that birth portal. Kind of the same idea of like the universe being a massive womb space, and like black holes being the birth space of creation of things. And so when we tune into that, like even in the darkness, even into the negativity, even in the horrors that we see within ourselves or in the world, like what again, this has everything else to do with like free will. So I'm not talking about like really negative stuff, that like we have free will to do things. So I'm just clarifying that piece. But when we think sometimes things are in the negative, it's actually not. It's like this yin yang of birth and death, and like endings and beginnings. And I talk about this over and over because I think it's so important. So yeah, I don't know how I got off on that tangent with the womb space, but back to the galactic stuff. So I think that like if you're just starting to begin, it's really fun to like research like different galactic beings and seeing what like resonates with you, or like having a reading with somebody that can tune into different aspects of you. It's really fun to dive into. And then when you have that knowledge, or when you're like, oh, I feel like this is also me, this resonates, then it becomes a duty and a job to be like, okay, how can I apply this now to like how can I ground this into my experience now, and to like really start to embody that, like of Octurians being like really incredible healers and really good with energy, and how could I embody those aspects in my humanness right now? So things like that. So get curious about your galactic side, and know that your inner alien and your inner galacticness is there. It's just waiting to be turned on, and it's just waiting to be kind of ignited, to be like, all right, let's go, like let's embrace it. And I think when that happens, you start to realize too that it's easier to tap into that authentic version of you, because you're like, oh, this is more of me that I didn't know was me. And it can be really fun to start to like play with, to be like, oh wow, I'm way bigger than just this. So how can I also, at the same time, how can I fully fucking send out my experience now and be myself so much so, because I'm so all of this. So how can I blow that up and be like, I'm just going to really rock out this version of me, so that other versions of me can grow and change and expand. And yeah, it just gets to be quite exciting. So right now, so in transition of this new Earth into the 5D, into this morphing of transition. And Dolores Cannon and Bashar talk about this a lot, of two worlds essentially splitting. So you have the 3D Earth, and then we're moving into the 5D Earth. And it is a physical thing. It is a physical separation, but we don't really perceive it as such. So what happens is, as you start to tune into, all right, this is what I want to focus on for the world. This is who I want to be president. This is who I want to be, in my space. This is how I want my relationships to be. This is how I want to feel. This is how I want to make money and do things. And the more that you can focus in on this new created reality, because we're co-creating all the time. We're co-creating no matter if we don't realize that we're co-creating. And if we're always co-creating, and our reality is reflective of our beliefs and our thoughts and our worthiness inside. Okay, so then let's tune into that. Let's start to have different beliefs to like have a better reality. So as these things shift, you get to experience a different version of Earth in this reality, moving into the 5D. But if you decide to keep your own loops and cycles, keep with your lower negative self-beliefs and opinions of the world and of others, and you're you stay in those emotions, then you kind of stay within that version of Earth. And so as the splitting happens, you'll, and what Bashar talks about is that like, you'll have people that you used to talk to all the time, or you have people that were in your world, and then suddenly they just like, they're not really there anymore. You don't have an urge to call them. They don't have an urge to call you. You kind of just separate yourself from that relationship, and you just kind of move in a different direction. And that's kind of like the version of like this Earth splitting, of people going different ways. And it's not either good or bad, right or wrong. It's just a different experience that you would choose to have. And if you choose to evolve and grow, then you evolve and grow with Earth. And to really shift into what you want to see, what you want to feel, what you want to experience, instead of looking at what is, or what is being told by mainstream media, or what is already in the collective consciousness, and going that direction, instead of being like, no, I want to put this in the collective consciousness. I want love and frequency, and I want play and fun, and whatever you want to put in that collective, and see the world through those lenses. Because have you ever had like an experience where you're talking to somebody and you're side by side? So you're like, okay, we're physically both here in this time space, right? Like we're next to each other. I could touch them, they could touch me, but their lens of how they view the world is so different than how you view the world. And you're just like, how is this even possible? Like, are we living in the same world right now? Because, like, those are not my thoughts. Those aren't my feelings. That's not how I see others or see myself. And that's kind of also how it is. Like, we're just putting like words in terms to like this experience that already kind of happens. And it's just now at a more bigger, larger scale as like Earth is kind of moving and also changing with us. And so, for what I understand, that's the first time a planet is going to do that. And that's really cool. So, sending even energy to like Mother Earth to be like, hey, I'm going to help you with this transition. I'm going to give you some of my energy and charge up, and you're going to charge me, and I'm going to charge you. And so it gets to be this really fun experiment. So see where any of that goes within you. Look into your galactic history, tune into that, see what comes up for you with that, and see where you're at on which world and reality are you feeding more. And if you're like, whoa, I'm definitely feeding that a little bit more and I want to shift over here, then it's super easy to do. You just start to shift your focus, shift your thoughts, start working on those limiting beliefs, get into that subconscious, and do the work to rewrite those. And there's lots of things you can do for that. So I can dive into that of what has helped me. But I'll do that probably in another episode. So if you are curious to see what I've done, just reach out to me and maybe I'll make that an episode. But till then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next episode.